Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to my stream and another chapter. Chapter 2. Chapter 2, working on that guy there. That is our 2021 Ford Bronco 1/24 scale model kit by AMT. We're going to run the intro. We'll get started. Okay guys, we are back, and as you can see, I've been doing a little bit of work with this guy already. We got basically the whole thing is all primered. Remember last time we got our chassis done, so I've got this all primered black. I actually put some primered black. I put a semi-gloss on it, and I've done a little bit of weathering on there. You can see in that camera there, or sorry, this camera, that camera there, where I've done a little bit of just a silver dry brush to make it just give that little bit of a metallic look, even if they are pretty clean underneath these things, unless of course you take them off-road. But I am doing this as I'm building this as a replica of a friend's truck, so there's that. So yeah, I know his is pretty clean, and he's probably never even had it off-road, at least not yet. So I don't want to do any kind of mud or anything on the underneath of this. I want to keep it clean. Anyway, so I did that. That's done. Okay. Let's just put that aside here. I've got the interior pieces, our seats, everything like that, like our little bucket seats here. With our little Bronco on there. You can see that. If I focus there, you can see our little Bronco on the seats. So these were done primered black. Then I painted the whole interior. Everything in the interior is NATO black, so it's not black, it's a NATO black. And then I did a semi-gloss clear over top of that. So, and I literally just did that, maybe about 15 minutes ago. So we've got more interior pieces here that they're dry now, but yeah, I did the fender covers. They're just done in black primer right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a semi-gloss over those. I don't think I will. I might just leave them that color. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at now. So I'm doing some decals here on the dashboard and finding out that these decals really don't want to lay down. Let's change the camera here and I'll show you. So here's our dash, and I'm putting the decals on around the radio, stereo and heater controls, and the decal does not want to lay down. Even with some Mark Fits super strong, they just don't want to conform over the knobs and everything. The decal just refuses to sit down and lay down on that. It's just not cooperating. There's also a little control knob in the center console. That thing didn't want to lay down over that either. So yeah, I'm not too happy with that. I was actually surprised they give us the decals for the steering wheel controls. As you can see, shiny glossy there. There's two little decals there that also just not really, well, those don't really have to conform. They're just flat, but just, you know, they don't look that great. So especially for the steering wheel controls, I think what I'm going to have to do is employ the same technique I do with my aircraft. Spray the steering wheel in gloss clear, and then spray it with a flat clear to get rid of the extreme shininess of the decals. Another thing I'm going to have to spend some time working on is our front bumper, because this kit, the front bumper has the kind of a bush bar that goes across the top here, but my friend's truck does not have that. His bumper is this exact style of bumper, but he doesn't have the bush bar. But what AMT did is, because they put the bush bar on it, they've got indents on the top of the bumper. So I'll show you here. It's got indents on the top of the bumper here and here where the bush bar attaches. So what I did is I just trimmed off the actual bar and put those pieces in, and now I'm gonna fill those in with some putty, like there and there, and then sand it all down smooth and kind of try and make it look like there was never anything there. So I do want to get a little bit of putty right now. I'm going to try using my Tamiya, the Tamiya gray putty, or quick type or whatever they got, basic type, this stuff here. As you can see, I've used a lot of it over the years. This is actually really, really old. I've had this probably for about I want to say 5 years or so. This stuff works okay. What I don't like about it is how quickly it dries. It dries so bloody quick that you don't really get to work with it very much. So I take a little bit out of the tube here, and you have to work really quickly with it. I want to put it, just kind of smear it over the top here. See, it's already starting to dry just on my applicator here. As I smear it over the top and try and fill in these gaps. A little bit on the front here too. And kind of push it into the gap. Okay, now we're going to let that dry for a while. I might not even do anything until, maybe 2-3 hours from now. Even though this stuff dries like really quickly, I have found that if you try and work with it, you try and sand it, it just pulls it right out of whatever little gap you're trying to fill if you don't let it actually cure. So I'm just going to set this aside, and that's going to be a project for later. So let's change the camera and let's get to some installation here, and we'll find out some mistakes that I made last time. Okay, so when we look at our chassis, step number 4 and 5. Steps 4 and 5, let's move a few things out of my way here. Steps 4 and 5, we got our transmission and transfer case, that we got that put together, and that's here. Okay, and so the way they have this displayed here out is you put number 61 to number 30, then you put the frame down over top, you put your transmission in through here and do that, and then you put your exhaust in. Well, as I found out, if you have the frame already glued to the chassis, you cannot put your transmission in. The transmission has to go in after this part here, because it has to go underneath this cross member, and there's not enough clearance for you to fish it through underneath. So what I wound up having to do, because it had been a few days since I'd glued this all together, I wound up having to break my transfer case off of my transmission, and so I have it in 2 pieces sitting here right now, because I had to literally break it off to fit it in there. But with that being said, that's done, so let's put all this together. I have it all painted, spent some time painting, that's why this is now aluminum and not flat black. I also painted my exhaust pipe. I went online and I saw some little videos of like a little walk around underneath these trucks, and for some reason I guess they have a coating on their exhaust pipe, just like that section of it, that makes it kind of that gold brown bronzy kind of color. And then of course we have our muffler. I drilled out the hole in the tailpipe, so we actually have a pipe and not just a solid thing, so that looks more realistic. And so we have this, and we have our chassis. So like I said, this has to fish underneath here and sit like this. But if this is already connected like this, there's no way that this was going to go underneath and get in here like this, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. It's just the pegs and everything just not going to do it. So I wound up breaking it off. And so we're going to glue this pin. You got 2 pegs here that go into these holes, and so that's just going to sit down right there like that. Okay, so let's put some glue on this guy. Let's get him out now. Let's get some glue going here. we'll do this and that. There. Okay. So he does touch there, so I'll put some glue in here too. So there's that. Our transmission is now in. We could put a little more glue on the pegs if I felt like it, maybe, and I do feel like it, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so there's that. Now we have our bell housing, or not bell housing, our transfer case is going to go in. Now he's got a couple of little pegs here that line up on those two holes, so it shouldn't, it should be fairly easy to get the right angle and get him in like this, and he's going to sit like that, right? So yeah, just like that. So let's pull him out again and get some glue. I actually want to put some of my other glue onto the face of it. I'm going to use my thicker glue. My orange cap glue, we'll do that. Glue one of these holes. Glue onto our pegs. In he goes. There we go. Okay, so that's good. So that's done. Now, the exhaust pipe is also a bit of a challenge because you got to fish it underneath like this. See the direction I got it? I got it upside down right now to fish it underneath the cross member, like so. And even with this, even with my technique, this is hard to do. I think it's got to wind up like this. So actually it's got to go in through here. Like this. And like that. Pain in the neck, right? Would be a lot easier if they had mentioned all of this. But even still, it's got to go underneath this, but also on top of it. So what would be easy, don't glue anything yet until you've got it all assembled, and then apply your glue. That would be the easiest thing to do. Get that lined up in that hole. There we go. So it lines up into a hole up front here. There's a hole for the front right here. And then there's a hole right here on the cross member, right there. And then the hole right there. And there's your 3 points of contact for your exhaust pipe. So, to me, extra thin is your friend on these. And then, finally, we have our muffler. 2 holes for those 2 pegs, and it just sits down over top of the pipe. Like so. Just like that. Nice and simple. So I'm going to use this again. Boing, boing. Line up those holes. Put him on. Just like that. And I'm going to use a little extra thin right in there. There we go. So there we have our chassis. Just like that. Now I'm going to take a little bit of black and I'll blacken up that tailpipe a little bit. Make it look a little more realistic. And that is that. So let's close this up. Don't want to dump that. Close this up because I don't want to dump that. So that is step 4 and 5 right there. I did find out, you guys might notice my little A-arms here are aluminum. For some reason Ford just has these as bare aluminum. Even though here they tell you to paint it flat black, actually is C, what color is C? What color is C? They're probably going to say semi-gloss or something like that. C, yeah, hey, semi-gloss black. Yeah, so they're telling you to paint this semi-gloss black, but in real life, these are aluminum. Yeah, sure, black in the middle here, but you never see them. You can't see any of it. But yeah, that should be aluminum. If you're trying to go for real life, yeah, those are aluminum. Okay, next step. Step number 6. We have more chassis stuff. I've already put the rear diff together. Let's take a look at that. Where's my rear diff? Here it is. Rear diff is here and painted. So I painted it with just a, I just did a regular Tamiya black, like X1 kind of black. So it's got a bit of a sheen to it, and then I did a little bit of silver dry brush on it. Did aluminum over the black primer, which makes it look very dark and more of a steelish color. And then of course I got the rubber black for their little little bendy part in the middle of their diff. So I'm not going to make the same mistake I did already by just gluing everything in place, because there's all kinds of little brackets and arms and stuff, shocks that go on here. We've got the gas tank, front shocks and steering, and all that kind of fun stuff. So we're going to go through one by one here and see how this is all going to fit. So we have our diff, and that's going to go in like this. It looks like our brackets all face me, so we'll fish that under here. I actually want to fix my little parting line here. I might wind up having to paint this again, depending on how visible this is. Fish it under our thing, and of course she don't fit in her hole. She don't fit in the hole in the transmission. So let's just go around here and file this peg down a little bit. She goes in now. Okay, so she's going to fit into our front there, and then a couple of holes back there. Okay, so we've got 2 little pegs for these to go in. I don't know if that's, I think that's flashing on there. Okay, let's try that. Oh, that fits better. Yes. Okay. So it fits right down in there like that. So there's our rear diff. Looks like we got a couple of control arms, number 74 and 73. Let's find those. Okay, so we have 74, 73. '74 is going to go onto our passenger side. 73 goes on our driver's side. Might as well get our suspension, 75 and 76. That's these 2 guys. This is 75. 75 also this side. 76 is this side. Be careful not to cut my knob off. I don't want to cut my knob off. You don't want to cut your knob off either, okay? Just don't do it. Don't cut your knob off. Gas tank. Our fuel tank has to get prepared. Bingo. We're gonna need that guy. I've got that obvious nub mark. I think I might wind up painting this just regular black as well. These gas tanks and these almost all modern cars are all plastic, so they're all black. I got a nasty seam line here that really I should have cleaned up before trying to paint this thing. I should have taken it off the sprue and painted it. So I'm going to repaint this and give it a nice black coat of paint after I clean up this parting line. Even if, you know, in real life it probably is a parting line on it, because they're plastic. It's a plastic mold, probably injection molded. It really is giving it a weathered look, isn't it? But I'm not really going for weathered look right now. I'm just cleaning up the parting seam, just so it's not so obvious. I don't mind if it is a little bit there. If it's actually there, that's fine. I don't really care too much. But where there was nubs, that needs to be cleaned. Okay, so I'm going to put this on an alligator clip and do that. And I'm going to spray paint this. I'll show you. It's the TS14 black. Okay, just give this a real quick coat. There we go. She's nice and shiny black now. She'll dull in a little bit because the TS14 is not super high gloss, as much as to me I would like you to think it is. It's not actually. It is a gloss black, but it's not flat, that's for sure. But it's not super high gloss either. Okay, so I've got some nub marks to clean up off of these. I might have to do some touch-up painting on these guys, depending on how everything goes. And for the tops of these, I'm not sure how well they're going to look. My goal with this, guys, is to have this done within a week. I'm hoping to finish this in a week, which is why I'm spending a lot of time on this in one little go. So this number 74 goes all the way down. Follow that line down to the chassis, which is going to be this spot here, and then this end goes into that spot on the diff. So it's going to go back here, I believe. So it looks like front and rear doesn't matter. It looks like it's the same. So going here and here, and that seems pretty easy. And yeah, I am going to have to touch those up with a little bit of paint. And same with this guy. Now actually one nub is longer than the other on that one. Let's see, is that the same on this? Yeah, it seems like one side is longer as far as our little pegs. They don't point it out in the diagram at all, but it seems on the actual part one is longer than the other, but I don't think that makes any difference. Okay, so that's those. There's our control arms. Now we have our shocks. Follow the lines of the shocks. This goes all the way down to here, which is going to be, looks like this spot on the frame right there. And then the upper half rests onto this little bracket. So it's going to be like this, possibly. Okay. So the shock actually has to fit into that because it sits on top of it. So it sits like that. So there's our shock, and that's how it sits. That's how your shock sits in there. I think that's just about ready for glue. We're going to turn this around. It is nice that everything seems to be fitting. With very minimal amounts of problems here. The fit seems to be nice. The fit is good enough that it's all going together without any issues. It's fitting together really nice. So I think I can put glue in everything here on the back part. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to glue it all together, and I'll deal with the little painting touch-ups later. So we'll start with our drive shaft and our rear end pieces, control arms, and now at the back. Our shocks, up lower mounts. I almost said upper mounts, but that's lowered. And then where the rear end connects to the frame. There we go. Everything's glued in. Glue on everything. Just a little press down to make sure it's all in. There we go. Her rear axle is in. Just like that. Alright. There's a couple other little spots like our tow hooks. We've got tow hooks and a 94. I don't know what 94 is. I don't know what they call that. I don't think it's painted. I mean, it might be painted. But I don't know. I don't even know where it is. I gotta find the sprue that number 94 is on. I'm looking for something that kind of looks like a little rectangular piece. small rectangular piece. I don't seem to see it. I don't know where 94 is. It's not part of the chrome. I don't think it's clear. Obviously, I'm just blind and I don't know where it is. It's because it's this piece here. Okay, so we've got some crazy nubs on this thing, which is why it was a little hard to recognize. Even to recognize this was a part was hard to do. Okay, so this has to go like this on the back there. I wonder what that is. Oh, it's a hitch. It's the hitch. That's hilarious. It's a hitch. Okay. It looks like the hitch and what you call it, the for your plug-in for your trailer harness. Your hitch and trailer harness. I'll be honest, they don't look like no class 3 hitch to me. Then again, Bronco's not really slated to be a real heavy hauler, right? It's an off-road truck. It's an off-road car after all. So yeah, it's your trailer hitch going in the back there. Okay. And I'm not going to do my tow hooks just yet because I have a feeling those are going to be something that are going to fall off on me later on. So let's move forward in our chassis and let's look at our front suspension. Number 80 and 81, 79 and 78. So let's get those off the sprues and see what those are like. Here's 78. It's 79. So 79 is this side towards me. 78 goes there. And then so our shock, we want number 80 on this side. That's going to be this guy. 80. And then 81 is for the other side. Okay. So the nubs actually came out pretty good. So this guy's going to go in. They want this facing forward. This is going to go into the hole here like this. Like so. But our shock is going to go in to the slot down inside here. And it looks like they want, you see how at the top of the shock here you've got that kind of a little nub that sticks out on the one side? It looks like they want that nub facing forward just like that to the left there. and that's how we're going to get our alignment there. So let's go bing like this, and it's going to sit like that. So right now it's just going to be loose, and then this goes in here. Now I do not know if the plan for this is to have the steering functional, if you're going to be able to steer the tires on this or not. I don't know. So I'm not going to glue them just yet. I'm going to make sure this shock is in its hole where it's supposed to be. Looks like it. And then our steering arm. The fact that these have holes in them tell me that it's possible. It's going to be steerable. We'll be able to steer wheels. But that's that. So I just got them just kind of sitting there like that. And we're going to take a look at step number 7. I know I'm forgetting the fuel tank. Don't worry about that. Step number 7, we're going to put our front diff in, but I need to paint my drive shaft on this. I have it painted black, so we're going to put this aside just over here for now. I need to grab our front diff and do a little painting. My front diff is back here. I have it painted just with the gloss black, but I got to do some detail paint on here because, well, it should be painted, and it's going to be easier to paint when it's off of everything. So we're just gonna give this a little coat of aluminum on our drive shaft. And this section here, so what they're saying is they want this painted, this, and then this section. Just these smaller sections. And then this. Yes, I know this is underneath and nobody's going to see it, but I care. I want it done proper. Okay. And then this tiny little shaft. Okay. Now we got to get the rubber black. To do our rubber parts. Rubber black is LP65, that's this one here. Okay. I like Tamiya's LP lines because they're lacquer. The lacquer is a nice thing, and it matches their spray paints. Because their spray paints are all lacquer. Right. Finally, our CV joints. Oh, it looks like there's really only one. When I was a teenager, I had one of my first cars, actually my very first car I ever had was a '79 Honda Civic. And, you know, I had no idea. Yeah, okay, I'd heard it's got CV joints. And, but, think I had any clue what CV stood for? Do you know what CV stands for? What is a CV joint? You know what CV? Well, here you go. Constant velocity. That's what the CV stands for. Constant velocity. Okay, so we have our front diff all painted up nice now and ready for installation. And so he's going to go in with our steering rack connecting to our, I'm going to call them A-arms, but our steering linkage. And then it looks like they show this part here going all the way down onto our shock, or sort of shock. I don't know. Detail. Okay, why? For the drive shaft going into our transfer case. Okay, let's have a look. So if we grab this, okay, so the drive shaft is going to go onto our, instead of going into the transfer case, it sits onto that peg. Alright, so let's slide this in here. Okay, so you don't really want to go. So let's see where else we're supposed to line up here. I know we got a couple of pegs, so we're supposed to line up right along this line here. These three holes. Bing, bing, bing. Which means right about there, but she's got to go onto the shaft. There we go. Okay, so she's connected on the shaft, but she's not really in her holes. I have a feeling I'm going to have problems with my shocks falling out everywhere. Okay. Because you don't want to go into the holes. So I'm going to have to take a look at my pegs a little bit here. They don't want to get into their holes, so I'm going to chamfer them a little bit, give them a little bit of an angled edge to try and convince them. See, once they get into the hole, they'll be a little bit more lined up, but just getting them started can be a little bit difficult. So let's get this again. Okay, this side's in, but the side with the actual diff is not wanting to go in. I'm going to have to make our holes a little bigger, I think. These holes need to be a little bit bigger. Let's just try grinding them with my knife. Let's do that. I still really don't want to go in there. Oh, there we go. We're in. Okay, they're really super tight, but they're in. So, let's get with this aligned up. Go. There we go. Okay. We are lined up and all assembled. And we're not going to be doing any steering with this car, because our steering rod is connected to our frame, so yeah, obviously we ain't doing no steering. But that's it. So our front drive shaft is in. Okay, that part's in. So let's have a look at our gas tank. She's been sitting here now for a while. So there's our fuel tank. She's going to go like this. She's got two pegs underneath that can line up here and here. Just like that. Nice and simple. And with that different sheen of black. It makes it stand out, and that's good. I like that. So I'm just going to pull it back out. Come on. And we'll use this glue just to go doink and doink. Line them up again. There we go. Fuel tank is in. Alright, so let's put some glue on our front suspension here. Starting with where it connects to our transfer case. And on here on our steering. And I'll try and get to the pegs where it connects into the frame. There. We still don't have our shock absorbers glued in, but that's okay. Alright, so that is that. That's step 8. 7 is done except for our little tow hooks. 7's done. 8 is done. And now we're going to go to 9. 9, we're getting our lower suspension in, boink on top, and get that all sandwiched together and solidified. Let's see. So I have this already painted, except for our sway bar. And this is where our shocks are going to go in through this. And it looks like we've got 1 peg here and 2 here. Oh, we've got 4 pegs, 4 little doves. Bing, 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 right there. Bing, 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 bing. So, with our sway bar going towards the rear, let's see here. So the trick here is to have our shocks lined up into those holes. And once you have that, and of course we have a couple of holes, let's pull this back off, we got a couple of holes here and here where your steering arms are supposed to connect into. So those are your alignment points. They seem to be good on this side. Kind of hold it, make sure. They seem to be good there. Let's give this a bit of a press, which doesn't really want to. I might have a little bit of paint in my holes, and that could be why also. You don't want to really cinch down. As you can see, I've got a gap here and here. I got gaps, so I'm not really in, even though it's lined up. I'm in at the front, but I'm not in at the back. So I want to kind of, I could have some flashing or some paint on my nubs, I don't know. Let's see here. I'm not seeing any obvious reasons why these don't want to go in. So let's just scrape away any excess paint. I'm not seeing any flashing that's going to cause any issues. Our holes are pretty big, so Let's see if I got a bit that's just a hair bigger. There. Okay. Let's try this again. I think really the only thing that's stopping it from going really tight down now that I've opened up those holes a little bit, so we can get flush, but we are still kind of getting some resistance from our steering, so I did kind of paint these a little bit thick with the aluminum, so let's just open up this hole a little bit like that, a little bit like that. Could even go a little bit deeper. I think honestly I'm probably just nitpicking with this. Alright, we're good. So let's get some glue on this. Glue on in there, and there. Glue on the steering. And now we're going to glue on this steering. Go to the back. I am pressing down, kind of putting a little bit of pressure down on this. And I'm going to clamp it. I'm going to put a clamp on it. This. Put a nice big clamp here. I want that held down nice and tight. Something I do not like is my sway bar is not connecting the frame. So I kind of want to put a clamp on the sway bar there, but I don't know if I can get a clamp in there. I want the sway bar glued down. That should be in contact with the frame, like so, and glue that down. Fortunately, clamping the one side made the other side go down also. And I'm going to glue my shocks in from the top. And here and here. All right, so we're going to let that dry. The next step is our skid bar. The skid bar is going onto the front, but of course we have a clamp in the way. So that is where this episode is going to be finished. We're going to let this dry, and we're going to continue next time. I'm still going to work on the decals on our dashboard. It's really not conforming. One thing they do for you is your decal sheet. You actually have two of each. It's like they've just doubled up on all your decals. So I have, like, for your instrument gauges, like your speedometer and stuff like that, we have two of those. For our touch display, we have two of those. We have both an off version and an on version of our decals. We've got two of those, and of course we've got two decals for our heater and climate control buttons and stuff. So it's nice, but we have that. They've given us that. So I have a feeling I'm going to be ripping this decal completely off and starting with a second one to get that to fit on there around the knobs a little bit and do them separate. I think that's what I might have to do. But anyway, that's going to be next time. You'll see all that finished next time. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I want to thank you for joining me on this little journey. And yeah, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. That would be really helpful. Leave a comment down below too if you feel like it. Really helps out the channel and the whole YouTube algorithm thing. I'd really appreciate that, guys. Thank you again, and we'll see you all in the next one.